Hi guys, welcome to the next video where we cover the World Open Shogi Championship games. This time we'll look at the European Shogi Championship battle for the third place between Thomas Leiter and Jean Fortin. Yes, Jean Fortin has the same surname as I do because that's my husband playing actually. Woo! No, we're gonna roast him hard. No, I'm joking. This game's gonna be the double static rook game, so I'm not a big specialist of those. I tried my best to combine my knowledge of tactics, AI, and my husband's commentary into some form of understanding of what is happening in this game, and I'm going to present it to you guys today. Let's jump right in. So Leiter was Sente, Fortin Jean was Kote, and we have this natural proposition of let's exchange bishop and go for bishop exchange opening, but Sente declines. Do it this way, it determines the fact that the bishop is closed, and after this move, this gold move determined that it's not gonna be Yagura. Yeah, if we went this silver instead, they push, we move the silver here, that would be possibly Yagura, but by pushing this gold, we kind of rob ourselves from other options. This most likely is gonna become a Gangi or Snow Roof castle. If we played again a silver instead, I think we would have kept the option of right side king opening with different places for the gold to develop. So in doubles, in general, in shogi openings, you wanna play moves that are flexible and like don't show your intentions right away. In this case, that move was rather forfeiting some options. Both sides are developing their silvers. And here we have early 5-4 pawn push. And that is because Gote will be trying to go for modern shogi opening thing, where instead of just building their castle, although they will have built some minimum defenses, they will try to engage early. That's what Gote nowadays like to do. Normally, if both sides would castle, and Sente would castle, Gote would castle, then it would be Sente's turn to attack. Gote battles that by attacking first before the castles are finished. Yeah, so that's what we're gonna see here. Now, King 6-9 was played, which is fine, but we already can see that the attack is going to happen at its head. We have this basic defensive formation. Both sides are developing naturally, and we have the Snow Roof castle. Yeah, this shape is very good. We talked about the clip push shape. Clip push shape is very favored by computers, and generally it's a great connection between silver and general. So this castle has been back in favor in the last few years, and it is a good shape here. So yeah, Gote is attacking early, exchanging the pawn at the head of the castle, the roof, and we're not gonna drop the pawn immediately because I mean the bishop's just gonna move back, and we would like to keep that pawn in hand. That's why we see a different move being played. And here Gote decided to exchange the bishops, which in my understanding isn't really favorable for them, like 100%, because there is a rule, at least in the past there was, that you shouldn't push central pawn in bishop exchange openings. So this is gonna create like lines, open lines over here and so on. For example, if ever this silver moves, this bishop drop becomes possible. It's not like 100% good, but the good thing that Gote gained is they exchanged those two pawns right in front of the opponent's castle. This is why after putting some edge pawn pushes, this king move over here was a little bit dubious because it's walking under cannon right now. Yeah, so it would be possible to instead move the king to the right side. Computer favored to move the king here, like a little bit more defended and yet not under this cannon. Yeah. So that was interesting point in my mind. Now just a few words about this edge pawn push, because beginners always ask like, what is it? Why are we pushing that? I also asked my husband, what's the deal here? he explained that in the future, well, simply speaking, the king will have, more escape routes. And he wants to keep that option, of castling, square open for the end game. And on the other hand, if he allows the opponent to push it again, maybe some edge attacks will follow. So it's a little bit like a proactive play for like very, very end game reasons, kind of, like escape route in the end game, having more space for the king. So yeah, king 7-9, not a very favorable move for Sente, I thought. God going up, so castling, taking care of this hole in the center, right? Now Sente has to think about the offense, right? So they will have an interesting idea here. I personally don't think there's anything wrong with like developing your knight and bringing it into center and so on. But what Leiter thought of was to open this square and then drop the bishop here. It's also a common square for bishop drop, but the question will be, will it succeed? And if not, will it become a liability? That's the main problem with bishop drops on your side of the board. So here, there was a possible counterplay, according to the AI, was to push this pawn early, then it was equal game. And it's clear that, Sente is attacking, God is defending. Castles are pretty equal, although you have to respect those 2 pawns in Gote's hand on those 2 files, I think. So what happened is Sente now decides to attack. How do they decide to attack? They push the silver to 7-6 and they put the pressure on the rook. And in Shogi in general, in my mind, we have like 2 ways of attacking. One is when you concentrate on the attacking the king directly. So let's say those pawn pushes. It would be like normal Shogi attack. But there is also the idea of instead attacking the attacking side, restricting opponents' attacking power. And although it's like less direct because it's not attacking the king, checkmating the king finishes the game. If you succeed, like your king will be safer, right? Because they won't have any attack. So that's what Thomas is trying to do here. There's also a very popular, bishop exchange opening where I think those 2 ideas are being mixed up. Yeah, a little bit attack on the king side, on the other side, and the battle is everywhere. This is why bishop exchange is so complicated. But yeah, this idea here is to put pressure on the attacking pieces, and Gote needs to do something about it. So he decides to make this shape, and it looks a little bit awkward because the rook is in the front, it's right in front of the silver. But this knight drop makes sure that the silver cannot attack the rook. It wouldn't be captured, right? And it's pretty solid, actually. Personally, around here, I mean, Otto's plate is here, it's not bad. I would also consider like putting even more pressure on the rook, maybe like developing into silver crown and stuff. I think it was an option. There are many ways you can continue here. Now the next move was a little bit of a shocker for me because it was gold 7-7 upward, I think the idea is the same. We want to like push this pawn. I would imagine we wanted to bring this rook here and push this rook and attack the knight and so on. But temporarily, this move really weakens our king, right? Like those 2 rows are empty. So if it happens that, I mean, it's a very far future. If it happens that Gote has a way of attacking the enemy rook and getting it in the hand, rook drop is very, very scary. So keep that in mind. That's why Gote may be eager to play fast here. We don't want to give time for them to pressure a rook. And we want to utilize the fact that their king is weakened right now. As we said, bishop on the board. Is it a good player or a liability? Well, we're gonna find out. Attack on the bishop's head. It's a good idea. And, taking pawn drop was an option. It was acceptable, but what happened is maybe, I don't want to call it kind of greedy move, like trying to get your knight developed. It normally would make sense, right? You just gain 2 moves to develop your knight. But the problem here was that this silver going up next threatening pawn push was very, very severe. And center really didn't have a good option here. So that's why it was a little bit greedy here. Silver takes was also possible. Bishop drop would follow here. It's a little bit complicated, but this bishop will do a great job, either being exchanged or being promoted, basically. So both of those, if any of those pieces moves, it's gonna create a weakness, and therefore this wasn't a good move. So that happened, and we're trying to ascend a move before we lose the knight, but unfortunately, we just simply lost it. Bishop 5-5 attacking the lands over there. We have to block it somehow. And here, simple knight jump would have sufficed according to AI. The idea is that this board remains on the board. It remains being a liability, and you can continue to harvest it. Yeah, and it would have been an interesting game for Gote. Gote decided to exchange bishops, which was still good. But after this move, again, we perhaps got a little bit greedy, like, I want to activate my knight, and it looks great. Rook to 3-8 was equalizing the game, which is very interesting, yeah? Like, it seems like we're getting 3 knight jumps, but actually what Gote gained was also like additional piece in front of the opponent's king, right? So it wasn't really clear. And yes, we can block the rook. Yes, the game would continue, but according to AI, that would be equal instead of Gote having the advantage right now. So generally, up to this point, strategically thinking, Sente has a huge weakness here, which Gote is doing great job utilizing, like opening the fight while it exists. Gote, of course, will have their own weaknesses. Now this pawn promotion will be a problem in the future, this knight drop. Yeah, because we're gonna activate a knight, so we're gonna give them a knight at some point. It's gonna be a problem, but otherwise it looks fine for Gote, right? The rook is seemingly putting some pressure. Other pieces are well placed. This silver is a little bit awkward for now, but otherwise, like, it's more active than this silver. Yeah, so it feels like strategically Gote is doing better, but tactically, this bishop drop was a mistake because bishop drop 3-7 was a strong counter. And this forks, the biggest piece and the piece they just dropped. So if you compare this position before the knight drop and after, I think you can see that it's like Gote's knight teleported for free. So they gained a move. And before Sente had the initiative, now it's gone. So Gote is even better. Therefore, bishop drops a mistake. So strategically and tactically now, Gote is doing much better job. And when I was watching this game for the first time, I thought Gote is destroying Center right now. It should be easy game. But it didn't turn out so. So what happened? Center needs to fight, so they push the pawn. Materially speaking, they just lost a silver, so it's a problem. And here, Gote decided to harass the rook. My idea would be to drop the bishop here, to like force them to exchange it. This would eliminate the knight weakness. This token wouldn't bother my silver. Yes, this wouldn't be a bad exchange, I think. Gote decided to drop the bishop here. And again, a nice follow-up would be to move the silver here, because rook taking the bishop would be silver takes, and now we have 2 attacking pieces in the center. This looks really good and really simple endgame, right? Just normally it would be talking, but he promoted knight, would just creep in, take off those defending pieces. I could say that like a simple endgame, right? A simple endgame plan. Instead, Gote dropped the pawn, which made this horse go away. So that was a little bit less efficient, right? Here the rook drop happened as we were talking. Silver drop followed to bring the king into weirder spot. There were some follow-up moves that you could go strongly if you have the confidence. Computer, for example, really likes this pawn drop, right? But From my point of view, it is like, if you're not sure that this move is gonna win you the game, it's very risky, right? You shouldn't play it. Going for this human approach of, I'm gonna go for less efficient route. I'm human, I'm not computer. It's totally fine. Yeah, you should be playing this kind of moves in your games. Like, you shouldn't just go crazy because it feels right. You have to calculate it through. And if you cannot, just choose the safer route, the human way, yeah? So I really like the silver taking move, but we have to answer few problems that will follow. And that is that, yeah, knight drop is blocking our rook's defense of the silver. No problem. Pawn drop follows. We exchange silver for the knight. Again, maybe not ideal, but good. And here, I think Gote still had advantage, but in this type of position, when it is very one-sided, you want to make sure you don't give the opponent a counter, right? So I think pawn drop here was okay, but what Gote did was knight drop. And this, unfortunately, gives silver takes counterplay and bishop drop. Rook and gods are being forked, and after a slight additional defense, knight drop follows. So this is the counterplay we're talking about. It's not ideal because it gives the opponent some chances. Therefore, like this knight drop here, silver takes was like too comfortable for center to play, right? Just take off the attacking pieces, take the initiative back. That doesn't feel good for Gote, right? But the game becoming a little bit more difficult, still waiting for center. But here things get complicated because Center has a lot of defensive pieces left on the board, right? We still need some time to break through. And this bishop looks pretty threatening. In this type of positions, there's always few options, general options that we have that we can choose from. Mainly, do we attack or do we defend? If you're sure that your attack is faster, you should attack. Now, if you're not sure you want to play safely or you're slower, you should defend. And here, again, there are many ways to defend. For example, you could move this guard up here to force the bishop to move and gain more breathing space for your king, right? The more secure way of defending, if possible, although it's very hard to achieve, would be to enter with your king, right? We have this promoted knight here supporting us, this dragon, this silver. Potentially could have entered with our king. And once we enter with our king, we can attack as much as we want, right? Unfortunately, what happened? Gote played a mistake, which was a move a little bit, we would say, too direct, yeah? Silver dropped, again, trying to force the bishop to move, but A, defending an attacking silver in defense, and B, allowing Center for a counterplay. Actually, king taking the bishop wasn't game defining, winner defining, but it's kind of scary because it puts the king on the back rank and you will have horse at your face where the opponent has a full castle. So it's a little bit scary. So the king escaped up. And here, potentially, Center was able to take 2 generals for 1 bishop and create a horse, gonna further harass the king. They didn't do that. They simply took the silver, which was less good, but also keeping a horse next to the king. Gold drop followed, king escaped, and they put the pressure on the rook. The game becoming complex again. Gote didn't refuse the temptation of sacrificing the rook for the god, continuing the attack. It feels good, right? We have a checkmate thread starting with the dragon check. But the problem is, in this position, Center has a good move. They have now currently 4 attacking pieces, and that was the problem, right? They gave too many pieces at the wrong timing to the opponent. So before we were talking about strategical things, right? Like castle strength, the king escape space. Now, endgame, it all comes to the tactics, down to the tactics, to the calculation. And if you make a mistake in that, everything else, like face, doesn't matter, right? So here actually God takes the silver, king takes, followed by rook drop. Was a very severe attack for center. It's a complicated line, but simply speaking, if we block with the lance, silver drop is possible. Gold takes would lead to a checkmate actually. So king runs, we take the lance, and then in the future we are able to drop the lance here instead of the silver, which would be a better game plan, better defense for center. So yeah, quite scary. Instead, center decided to use the silver, to defend here. Mistake follows a mistake, and pawn drop, even though it looks good, trying to force the king upward, perhaps for a knight drop here. Knight drop simply was better, actually, because king escaped diagonally. The most painful moment is here, God that doesn't have a diagonal piece. To drop here, they have no way of getting diagonal piece, right? Because diagonal pieces are here. And yeah, dragon takes the silver drop, gonna be possible, but it takes 2 full moves, right? 1, 2, even 3, right? Because now we gave the initiative to center. This is the most scary moment. It's like you cannot do anything else but just watch what your opponent does, yeah? Takes the silver, king takes, and this time actually we have enough time to put the rook here, as taking this gold would lead to a checkmate. So moves like this, line like this would be very favorable for center because they have all this time, right, to do what they want. For example, pawn drop, by a pawn drop. Just as simplest attack like this would be very severe because they have enough time, to continue. But it was so scary. Let's see how the game follows, and then we will look again at the position to make a conclusion about what we've seen. Rook drop, instead of taking the silver that we just saw, actually allowed Gote to add a defensive lance, and this was not simple at all anymore. Pawn drop, silver back, forcing the rook to move. We gained a move from Gote's perspective. We were able to take the silver, and it looks very severe, but here center tries to make an escape route, but unsuccessfully. Very severe, because after gold takes the silver, it almost looks like we have Tsume. We don't. It all came down to the 1 move difference from one-sided game. Very tense shogi. Yeah, here center resigned. The idea is if we go there, this is no way to continue, right? There is no checkmate, so here center resigned. From Gote's perspective, the game became too close considering they have huge advantage. Center really fought well until the very end. Just to explain how the flow of the game happened, right? This is the critical moment where we took away the knight and Center was able to find a counterattack. Perhaps it's a lesson for us all, right? If you are having a one-sided game like this, the first thing is do not allow your opponent to have a counterplay. You have enough time, right? You have huge advantage. Make sure your king is safe first. And of course, in Byomi, many mistakes happens. What is decided in the end is your pure endgame skill, pure. How do you deal under the stress skill, right? Shogi is a very brutal game. In the end, sometimes it comes down to a luck that certain move is or a certain move isn't sumo, right? Very beautiful game for the 3rd place. My husband has gotten the 3rd place. He brought home a trophy, which was good because I left him with the words "Do not come back home without a trophy" before he left. So he was able to come back home safely. And the trophy is proudly displayed in our home right now. So thank you guys for staying until now. Hopefully you enjoyed this commentary. And I will see you in the next one with another WSC game. Bye bye.